You may spend hours, days, or even weeks planning, writing, and editing your university application essay. The admission officers, they usually spend around 2 to 3 minutes reading it, sometimes even less. So, how do admission officers read your essay? And more importantly, what does this mean for how you should write it? That's exactly what we'll be discussing in this video. Hi, my name is Zoe, and I'm a native English speaker and university applications essay editor and consultant. Over the past 6 years, I've reviewed and corrected more than 3,000 university application documents for students who got into some of the top universities in the US and around the world. I'm also the founder of Xena International Education, an educational platform specializing in university application services, including college application essay reviews. So, if you'd like professional feedback on your application, leave us a message or visit www.xenainternationaleducation.com/collegeapp.php to find out more. Anyway, let's get right into it. Before we get started though, there are a few important disclaimers that I first need to make. First of all, this video focuses on application essay review, not the full application review process, though we will touch a bit on the application review process briefly as well. Also, I am not an admissions officer. Everything here is based on conversations with admission officers, training materials, and publicly available information. So I'm doing my best to try and consolidate all the information for you. I also want to make it very, very clear that the admission process differs by school, by year, and even by the admission officer reading it. So there's no single secret formula. What I'm sharing is a general but realistic picture of how essays are read. Anyway, beginning by how admission officers actually read your essay. First of all, right now, everything is digital. Admission officers no longer have stacks of papers and stacks of folders. Nowadays, what admission officers use are digital systems that pull together your grades, your test scores, your activity lists, your recommendation letters, your additional information, as well as your school and personal demographics, and importantly, all your essays. At the moment, as well, it's also very important to note that essays are still not being read by AI. They're being evaluated by humans. So your essay isn't just going to be going through an AI system that judges your writing. It's read by humans. Additionally, applications are usually assigned by region. So each admission officer is responsible for a specific geographic region, sometimes specific programs or even specific schools. This means that the admission officers reading your application essay are very familiar with your education system, your educational context, and your regional opportunities and limitations, and all of that is taken into consideration. And that's really, really important because your essay is never read in isolation. Whenever an admission officer reads your essay, they consider your entire application, not just what you've written in your essay. There will often be multiple reads of your application essay. So during the first read, one admission officer may read your full application, or you may have two admission officers reading different parts of your application separately and comparing notes and discussing it together. It depends on the university, and it also depends on the resources available by that university. So what happens during the first read is that usually your admission officer or admission officers will skim through the entire file, write comments, and flag key points for further review or for other people to read later on. Your application then either goes through additional readings or it goes straight to a committee meeting where multiple admission officers from different regions discuss applicants together and make decisions about who exactly they want to admit and who they don't want to. So, how much time is actually spent reading an essay? Well, I know it's a bit sad, but on average, admission officers will only spend 2 to 3 minutes on the personal essay, sometimes even less. And there's no fixed formula as well for how long an essay is read for or how it's read, but admission officers have to read thousands of applications each year, each season, and they may actually be reading hundreds of applications in a single day. So admission officers will need to quickly extract as much information as they can in a very short amount of time and try to build a 3D picture of you in that very short period of time. Importantly though, your essay is always read in conjunction with everything else, with your entire application. And this is very critical. So admission officers will constantly jump back and forth between your essay, your activities list, your recommendation letters, even your demographics. They're checking for consistency and they're looking for alignment. Although they're only reading in 2 to 3 minutes, admission officers are trained to quickly absorb information and identify when something feels a bit off. And they're trained to cross-check your different components in a very short amount of time. So for example, if you're writing about a major activity in your Common App essay, then is this activity clearly listed in your activity section? And is this activity the first thing in your activity section? If it's so important and so life-changing that you wrote about it in your Common App essay, they will check things like that. They'll also check that if you explain challenge, does it match your transcript or your additional information section? And if you claim that you have a lot of leadership and impact, is there evidence for that somewhere else? So admission officers are always looking for consistency. So your essay is essentially helping them to understand context and understand who you are, not just storytelling. It's also important that there's no fixed order that they read the different essays that they have in your application. So there's the Common App essay, there's your additional information section, your supplemental essays, your extenuating circumstances essays, etc., etc. And depending on what admission officers read into, so like whether they read into your scores, your awards, or demographics, they may choose to focus on a specific aspect or want to read about something first. So there's no real order that the admission officers may actually read your entire application or your entire application essays. It really just depends on the admission officer. I also want to note that not all admission officers will fully read every single essay that you write. If your essay's beginning is generic, boring, and difficult to read, then admission officers may really just skim through very, very quickly the rest of your essay or not even read it at all, and may just set it aside, leaving you with decreased chances of admission. So that's why it's always very important that whenever you're writing an essay, you begin with a strong hook, because admission officers are reading through hundreds of applications and a boring introduction won't get them to read any further. Anyway, moving on to what admission officers are looking for in essays. Again, different schools will value different things, and those priorities can change every year, but broadly, admission officers want to see who you are as a person. They're not looking for perfection, not drama, not fancy words. What they're looking for is an authentic voice, personal insight, and self-reflection, as well as emotional and intellectual maturity. Additionally, admission officers want to see clear personal qualities within your essay. So many schools will actually use rubrics to rate traits such as curiosity, initiative, leadership, collaboration, integrity, service to others, and communication skills. So they're trying to see who exactly you are, and they're trying to identify who they want at their university. And importantly, they're not just evaluating what you've achieved. They're evaluating your potential to thrive in college. And this is really, really important. Universities want to see if you're able to fit in within their institution. Extremely, extremely important. Colleges are not just selecting the best students. They're selecting students who fit in with their mission, their values, their institutional priorities, and even their enrollment goals that year. That's why it's always a really, really good idea to really look at and analyze what a school's mission statement is and see exactly what they're looking for, what kind of students they're looking for, and who they're looking to admit. However, never fake interest or never fake who you are just to match a school. This will get you instantly rejected. Okay, there you have it. A very brief overview on how admission officers read your application essay. Remember, your essay is important, it's powerful, but it's only one part of a holistic review. Admission officers read fast, compare consistently, and look for alignment. So make sure that when you're writing an application essay, that you're clear and not vague. You're honest and not performative, and be reflective, not just impressive. And make sure there's consistency throughout your entire application. You will never be able to know exactly what one admission officer wants, but authenticity, clarity, and consistency will always help. If you'd like someone to review your application essay or even your full application, feel free to leave us a message or comment review down below, and we'll get back to you very soon. Good luck to everyone applying to college or university this year, and I'll see you in the next video.